son and namu. Kian Pane Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, yeah, do Monsia, we are. I'm on my yoke, so we are son and Bemu. Kian Pane Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, yeah, do Monsia, we are. Kian, say by your se pa yanju o kiyan sa pa yanju o kiyan ma si apa yanju o so si olele o si olele o ya si olele lele o ya si olele yo amo manyo ko so wi ya son dan be mu Kian Pane Bato, we are Tomoni, oh, Abidjan, do Monsia, we are. Kian se Bayon Dijo, Mama. Kian se Bayon Dijo, son care. Walking, ya Kian. Kian se Bayon Duo. Kian Yauri money. Moretolesia, Mambembe, son fille. Kian Yauri Manyo, Abatoni. Passion même oh Kian ya we money more tolesa ma memu pio abinyo be.
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Tough Talking Thursday. On this Thursday evening we are live on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be talking tough on three major issues. Number one, the drug bust in Monrovia worth $100 million US. President Weah's sermon at the Focke Church and Alexander Benedict Cummings of the ANC/CPP has named Team Cummings 2023. With me to discuss this issue, I have our governance consultant, Mr. Ahmed Salib, who's joining us from Minnesota. Mr. Salib, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always a pleasure to be on with you and Mohammed and other colleagues. So let's get on to it.
Thank you. Let's welcome Mr. Mohammed Sharif. He's our political analyst. He's also a proud product of Waplo Institute, all the way from behind God's back in Kilipo, Kanwike. Mr. Sharif, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis, for that elaborate intro once again. It's always great to be here.
And we are waiting for Blowjay Nation, that's Choppy Charlie, who is a Born Against Sedition. He's going to be joining us. Our chief political analyst, Mr. Coney, is on a very well-deserved break, and he's being replaced temporarily by Mr. Blowjay Nation, that's Choppy Charlie. Also, our TRC commissioner, former TRC commissioner, Mansa Washington, something came up and she's not able to be here. We've also reached out to the ANC Global ANC CPP team to send a representative, since we're going to be talking about the issue of Mr. Cummings tonight. But we were not able to get someone. The CPP ANC has just reorganized themselves, so they're going to send someone from that newly configured team, that's Team Cummings 2023. So in the absence of that, the ANC was not able to give us someone. Mr. Choppy Charlie, aka Blowjay Nation, welcome to the show. Please adjust your camera in a landscape view, and welcome to the show. Choppy, we can hear you. We need to do some adjustment there, and we can hear you. Choppy, you are a pro guy, man, so we expect that your internet be strong. All right, so as I was saying, the number one issue we're going to be discussing tonight is the drug bust in Monrovia. We read in the newspaper that cocaine worth of $100 million. I'm saying $100 million US seized in Monrovia, and those responsible, some of them have been arrested and put into jail. We also learned very recently that amount of cocaine was burned. Take a look. That's the cocaine. You see the fire. Choppy, are you there? Can you hear us now?
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear.
All right, Choppy, let me start with you again. Welcome to the show. If you can put your phone in a landscape view and see so we can get a better picture right there. So before you do that, you have to put in rotate mode. So let me start with you, Mohammed. The drug bust in Monrovia, you heard the news. My first question is this good news, bad news, not so good? What do you make of it?
I mean, certainly it is not a good news. Anytime you see, a country infiltrated by narco traffickers, that has to certainly be a bad news. So, Dennis, how do we get here? So, just put this in perspective. Prior to the Civil War, it was basically control. Liberia was a control environment in terms of drugs, way back, in the Tobo era. I mean, these things were unheard of. So what you're looking at now is the pathological residue of the Civil War. During the war, we often heard how, young kids as young as 10 years old were drugged by Charles Taylor and his associates to prosecute the Civil War. So, the war ended, but, not all of the ills of that era ended. So the guns were silent, but you still had poverty. You had, destruction of lives and properties. You have, economic degradation. And one of the residues of the Civil War, as you can see now, is the drug pandemic. And so it's important to note that, the United States, in conjunction with, authorities in Brazil, from what I heard, were very much involved with this confiscation. And so kudos to the Liberian Drug Enforcement Authority for taking on this enormous responsibility and acting in the way they should have. And so this is the moment for us to say to them, to give them compliments where it is due. They did a good job here. And so my expectation, I'm sure the expectation of the Liberian people is for the government of Liberia to go beyond to address, some of the issues that's leading to this. One of the things that the report mentioned is that there was a citizen from Guinea-Bissau. So Dennis, for a long time now, several years, decades, maybe 2 decades or more, Guinea-Bissau has been linked to drug in the West African in the West African region. Guinea-Bissau has this sort of powerful military institution. The military hierarchy has been linked to drugs, in Guinea-Bissau. And so Guinea-Bissau then is the transit point, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and somewhat up to this point, is a transit point for narco traffickers. It's very attractive. And so from that outlet, you have drugs going all over the place, in West Africa, East Africa, and North Africa. And so what I think the government of Liberia can do is to liaise with the government of Guinea-Bissau, work with them closely to see, if in conjunction with that government, if they can stay on their front foot. So this is something now they have to move forward with. And then second, the government of Liberia itself has to put in place policies that will ensure that, this thing is put under control. Otherwise, it is very, very dangerous what is going on. Certainly, this is not something we need at this time.
Thank you. Choppy, can you hear us now? Mr. Salif, I mean, if you look at that quantity, 100 million worth, I mean, it's very safe to surmise that it is not intended for Liberia. Probably Liberia will be used as a hub to do this. First of all, And it says this was help from the US, from Brazil, and everybody else coming together. We know very well that our DEA is underfunded, but what does it say about our drug problem? And really, because there's one thing to use the drug ourselves, but if it's a transit point, if that's a hub and drug, we know these are all linked to other things. How scary is this situation?
Very scary, Dennis. Mohammed laid it out very well that the history with drugs in West Africa, originates out of Guinea-Bissau just because of the nature of the state, a very weak state, very extractive state, military state. So drugs of that quantity, I mean, some 520 kilos of narcos. This was not meant for West Africa, even writ large, not just Liberia. This was meant for the European and American market, and I can guarantee you, while we congratulate, mighty congratulations to the DEA, to the Liberian state, this was not a job just by the DEA. This was a job by the American Coast Guards, perhaps the American intelligence, CIA, other authorities, the other collaborators, Europeans, like Mohammed mentioned, Brazilians. So because that was very significant interdiction. A drug quantity that is worth that much money, that amount of money, tells you that the powerful drug kingpins are behind this, and so many hairs will roll in the dark world. I can assure you of that. That's one count. On the other hand, that these kingpins and their operatives are thinking of Liberia, expanding their kingdoms, so to speak, from Guinea-Bissau and other weak states in our region to Liberia. It's a potent problem for us. Suggests that now they perceive us as a weak state as well. They perceive Liberia as a friendly environment. That they may be corrupt. There may be corrupt individuals who may be interested in that line of business because it's one that enriches drug laws very quickly. I mean, imagine $100 million in a poor country like Liberia, in a small country like Liberia. Any official who has authority over potentially enabling such a deal to go through, or to use Liberia as a hub, as a passage, they become rich overnight, and so there's the temptation there to draw a country in. Finally, a point I'll make: when we talk about our ex-combatants, former child soldiers who have now turned into a lot of them drug addicts, so-called Zogos, all over the streets of Monrovia and these environs, that tells you that residues of these kinds of quantities of drugs remain in Liberia for the local market. Again, the Liberian market is not lucrative for that kind of drug enterprise, but still, some of it remain in that country, and it's devastating. It's devastating for for unsuspecting young people, young adults, and people with mental health issues who already use drugs during the war years and are addicted to cocaine and other types of drugs. Additionally, there are all kinds of uncontrolled, unregulated medicines or controlled substances that come from places like India, other parts of Asia. I mean, they control a lot of our economy, the Asians, the Indians, and Lebanese, and others. So we have a major problem. I think this should be a wake up call. While we congratulate our government, our DA, that the power that be has to be vigilant. Otherwise, the country is going to be ripped apart even further.
Thank you, Choppy. If you can hear me, it's a good thing that the Americans help, right? But how prepared is our DEA to deal with this kind of issues? I mean, if the Americans didn't step in, where could we have been possibly? And the second question to that is, we saw fire, the drug is being burned, but yet there are people questioning and say, I don't think they burned it. I mean, such a mistrust in our security system. So Choppy, two questions for you there. How prepared are we without the Americans to deal with this kind of situation? And why is it that people don't even believe that the drugs are actually being burned? Choppy, can you hear me? All right. Choppy is not is
He's muted. He's muted. He was muted.
Choppy, can you unmute yourself?
I think Choppy is on the phone. It's not a,
Yeah.
if it's a,
I hear you.
All right, go ahead, Choppy. We can hear you.
My audio.
My man, CDC got a lot of money for this kind of thing, man. Just
Yeah.
stop making us shame.
Yeah, let's deal with that and we move to the next topic. My two questions. Without the Americans and the other helpers, where could we have been? And why is people don't even believe that they're burning the drugs?
yes,
So
that is.
that for me,
Go for it, Mohammed. Go for it.
no, Doc, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's citizen state trust relationship issues, citizen and state authority trust issues. I mean, there are all kinds of episodes of or indications of the increasing distrust of the government on the part of the citizen because there've been governance shortfalls. I mean, for sure, we have to call it that, right? I mean, it's not just policy slippages or misdirected policy options. The major governance shortfalls. I mean, people don't like when we talk about it that way, but you have to identify the problem and recognize that problem exists before you address it. Look, this is a serious national security problem, even for Liberia, if you think about it that way, right? You have a country that is still very fragile. That potentially could relapse into conflict with some of the drivers and levels of conflict we're seeing, you know, the political agitation, the economic hardship, the polarization, the polarized nature of our body politics, coupled with all kinds of other socioeconomic factors. You know, if you take all of those into account, you have the Zogo problem, the young people who participated in the war, who haven't been really truly rehabilitated, and they're all part of the society. And that portends a terrible omen for us. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm not here to beat the drums of bad omens for the country, but I can tell you, if we don't have help where we're serious about this and we admit that it is a problem, it's gone not only for our society because young people will be vulnerable and exposed to these kinds of things, but it could also be a driver of conflict and potential relapse
Yeah.
and further increasing the fragility of the country.
Yeah.
Dennis, if I was just chiming, Ahmed made an excellent point. So just looking at what it is in the United States national interest to ensure that drug trafficking, narco trafficking in the West African sub-region is controlled. And so for that reason, I think that Liberia is still going to get help. But we cannot continue to depend on the United States. So what if we didn't the drug enforcement agency, what if the Liberian authority didn't have a tip off from the United States security apparatus in Monrovia? We will be in trouble because Monrovia now I think is being used as a conduit to transport these drugs to other parts of West Africa and North Africa and to Europe as well. So, we need to ensure again and again, we continue to talk about, the infrastructure needed to be able to call yourself a truly independent country. If you're a truly independent country, I mean, you have to ensure that you have all those infrastructures to keep your citizens safe, to keep your nation safe at all times. At this time, Dennis, unfortunately, we don't have those infrastructures in place. We don't have the right security apparatus to safeguard our citizens from violence. We don't have those infrastructure to ensure that our citizens are not being hit by the impact of, these narco traffickers. Guinea-Bissau is right in the region, and for so long, more than 3 decades now, as I mentioned earlier, Guinea-Bissau has been the hub, the regional hub for,
Yeah.
drug trafficking is well documented. And so, so your question is well in place. We don't have, the vibrant security institution that is needed to fight this kind of onslaught of drug in our country. It's unfortunate that we don't. And we continue to talk about the deficit of leadership. This is part of the deficit of leadership that we continue to talk about.
Thank you. And finally, I heard people from the CDC celebrating. They say, now you see the U.S. and we are in good relationship. You see, we're working together. They told us, you guys were all here talking about, sanctions and all other things, but the Americans are working with us. Big deal, right, Mr. Salif?
Big deal indeed. Look, listen, this is not about trust. It's not about American working with us. This is, like Mohammed said, it's in the interest of the United States. The U.S. has been watching Guinea-Bissau for a long time. Several interdictions have happened, even in the Guinea-Bissau situation. They're monitoring the West African region because terrorists also deal in drugs, and so they're in partnership with these South American drug laws. There are civil wars that have been connected to drug revenue and things like that. So, look, foreign policy is about your country's national security interests, national security and economic and other interests, or in the overall interest. It is in the interest of the United States to be very vigilant and watch out for those kinds of things that may be using West Africa as a conduit. So it could have been anyone in power. It doesn't matter. It's in the interest of the U.S. to make sure that those drugs are contained and destroyed. So, I mean, yes, you can celebrate. Look, security apparatus between nations. That's why you have military attaches at embassies. You have security advisors, national security advisors at the presidency. Ideally, these are areas that they're collaborating. You have political economic affairs officers at U.S. embassies that are collaborating on these things for very good reasons. So they can celebrate, we'll give it to them, but I tell you, this is not a big foreign policy victory here.
Thank you. Choppy, can you hear us now? Unmute yourself and say something, Choppy. All right. That leads us to our next issue here. Is Sunday. That's the day after President Weah's birthday. The president was again at the Fokekron Jalal Fellowship Church, where he gave what others see as a sermon, a campaign stunt, or a major policy statement. Okay, we were able to stream that here on Focus on Liberia. President Weah started with very good Bible, be kind one to another. That's Ephesians 4:32. Be kind one to another. He went to Thessalonians, pray without ceasing, rejoice, and I mean, he gave a sermon, and then he talked about other things. Okay. I don't know if you watched that, Mr. Sharif. What is the president trying to do here?
Dennis, you look like, you sound like you can stay on the pulpit and deliver your own as well. So I like that. But listen, the president, I think the gloves came off. I like that kind of politics, in a moment like this. I think that, we've been yearning for this president to say, please say something, say anything, just anything. Okay. The bar has been so low and he's not saying anything. So it's like in a boxing ring, he's getting all these body shots and he's not responding. And sooner or later, the referee will stop in to stop the fight. So now the president goes to his church where he's very comfortable and took on Louis Brown and he lambasted Louis Brown and he said we fire him because Louis Brown is indisciplined. Louis Brown voted against what our national interest was. Our national interest was to vote with the United States. You agree with him or not? I don't agree with that, but that's what the president said. The president has the national security information to tell the Liberian people. While Louis Brown was fired from his job, Louis Brown was not following instructions. He said, "I fire him. That's why I fire him." And the gloves came off. And so to me, I didn't see much wrong with it. He did it in the church where he's comfortable. Listen, on Sunday, is there where you go to, to take down your opponents? I think you should be praying to God for.
Well, Mr. Sharif, the president started with, be kind one to another, rejoice, don't do gossip, don't have anything against people. Right. And then he violated his own message by not being nice to Louis Brown.
Yeah. This president, I mean, there are these idiosyncrasies about this president, right? And, one moment he can be saying nice things, and then he goes and say, these people are causing my mom and they're causing my mom. I'm going to butt somebody with my head. All these things. So this president does that. So I'm not surprised that he went first softly. And then the real thing he was looking for was bothering him all along was Louis Brown. Louis Brown has been bothering him. So he came at Louis Brown, and I think he successfully took on Louis Brown in that sermon. And what did Brown do? Brown comes out again and said, beautifully, and said, "Mr. President, you cannot take me out of this country. You may be able to kill me." So I thought that was beautiful. But the fact that they are going at it in this way is good politics. It's the kind of thing that you you want to see. I don't know if it's beneficial to the Liberian people, but politics itself is contact sport, as Bill Clinton said. So they are going at it. I like it. And one of the things that Louis Brown said, he said, "I have served my country now." So he's going to now make Louis Brown to say things that are not true. Louis Brown said, "I have served my country. I have given my entire life to my country." Well, the president can come back and say, "What have you given to your country? What life are you talking about? You mean the life of working for the NPFL, the life of working for the NPRAG, a group that destroyed Liberia in the better part of 1991 to 1994, a group that was very irresponsible in the way that they handled the Civil War. So no, you have not served your country. I, George Weah, have served my country. I was a soccer star. I came back home. I did a lot of things. I took the Lone Star of Liberia at the time of desperation. I took the team to the African Cup of Nations twice. So I have come back. I came back and served my country. So George Weah, in this particular sequence, I think I will give round one to George Weah at this time. So he did a good job of starting this debate.
Thank you. Let me check with Chappie again. Chappie, are you there?
Am I audible?
All right, good. So turn your video off because we don't want to see that dark spot around you. Yeah. So
Okay.
so Chappie.
Yeah.
All right. So your response to the president statement here, like President Trump here used Twitter. So it is clear now that the president of Liberia is he addresses national issue from the bullet pulpit in his church, right? What does it say about the separation of church and state, Mr. Charlie?
Yes. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So just before coming to the president, I thought that to comment a bit on the previous discussion dealing with the drug question. I do appreciate a commentary from our friend Mohammed, showering some praises on the government, the DEA, for helping to arrest the situation. But at the same time, it seems to me that there is still a question. While we do agree that Liberia do not have the sophistication, security rights to counter these drugs, but the real question that I want to ask is how did this drug leave faraway land to come to Liberia, especially areas where there were more sophisticated security apparatus? I think to me that is the most serious question, because if these places where they have more sophisticated security network will allow this drug to slip through and come all the way to a poverty-stricken country like Liberia, to me, that's a real danger. That's a real serious question. It is not about the drug being in Liberia, But why would they allow these drugs to come to our country? That is, to me, is a real question. And then I'll
What you
come
mean
back to the
allow?
president. I think Muhammad again makes the point again. It's difficult to agree. I'm not excited to agree with Muhammad, but I have to agree with him again that the politics, is a contact sport. You want to see people going at it, and the discussion between the president and some member of the opposition is good politics. It's good theater. So I would just leave it at that. The president had to come up strong on Louis Brown, being a foremost a supporter of another opposition leader, and Louis Brown responded. But I think the president.
Choppy, we lost you again. Let me go to Admin. Admin, are you there? All right. Admin, here's the question for you. All right. President Weah, and we talked about this already. The president did not address the rice shortage. You know, major issues were not addressed. So the president talked about some of the issues he talked about. Of course, we talk about the Louis Brown issue now. That, oh, I fired him. He did this to me. He called me a rebel. He's the rebel, right? He talked about his Miami comments. This time, he did not say Monrovia is like Miami. He said rehab community is like Miami. He also talked about his foreign policy. Okay, so here I'm beginning to know what kind of issue does this president address? Is it things that affect him personally that he feel angry about, or is he more concerned about national issues?
Well, just in my anthropologist armchair vantage point that I'm not privy to um, the president's inner circle or his policy direction. But it seems to me that the president has thin skin in some of these public discourses, right? You recall when the president came to the UNGA, he took the liberty to go to his private residence to demonstrate that his visa was unrestricted. In fact, not only by the symbolism of going to his private residence, but he actually did say on camera, you see, they say, I can't, my visa restricted, look at me, I'm here, right? So that tells you that these kinds of things get under the skin of the president. The Louis Brown thing got under the president's skin. Look, Mr. Louis Brown, you may dissect his history and the history of a lot of other prominent Liberians who participated in different episodes of our conflict or in our body politics. But Louis Brown, he's an intelligent man. He's in his own right, I think he's a man of consequence. So if you lose someone like that to a major opposition candidate and someone who had served in your government, in your administration, someone who at one point was a diplomat of the country or was a confidant of the president. Because if you serve at the will and pleasure of the president under our constitution. So by that, we can assume that the president and our representative, permanent rep at the United Nations, exchange some very deep national issues, and so Louis Brown was privy to things and came close to the center of power. To see such a person, you losing them to another candidate, I think it got under the president's skin, and he took it personal. Look, Mr. Sheriff, and even you, Dennis, listen, this scripture. They're not to be taken textually, right? I mean, you can extrapolate from the scripture, and on one hand the text may be saying, be nice and be smooth, but you can say, if you're very well savvy cleric, you can say the same text says, we should take them down this way so that we put them in check, right? Maybe that's what the president was saying. And the gloves did come off. The moment that I didn't think was presidential was when the president was teetering on the brink almost of as though he was threatening Mr. And Louis Brown did claim that on Spawn TV later on in the media that the president in fact threatened his life the way the president said it, look, Liberia is a fragile country still. There are people there who are fanatic, who love the president, and the seditions, the youth wing is there. They have the so-called, what's it called? They have a very militant wing of their party. So if the president spoke in a way that this person is, I don't like them, and if they're not careful, this might happen to them. Stuff could happen to them. Things have happened to people in the country. So I think in that moment was not presidential, in my estimation. And I don't think that the president should be going in that direction. It's one thing to be political, to take on your political opponents and talk about them in disparaging ways and try to deflate some of their ego to the public. That's fine. Like Mohammed said, that's the politics. We want the president to speak. We want him to also speak on major national issues like the rice shortage in the country. And why are we even still clamoring over imports of rice and the lack thereof, the shortage of why? I mean, look at us, look at Liberia, right? I mean, our geography, our topography, the location of the country, the weather system, the rain is in our favor. Why can't we? How is it difficult, really, for a government to be able to devise certain policy options that will at least bring the country to some respectable level? It beats my imagination that we're still so dependent on imported rice. In fact, people have been conditioned to an extent that they don't even respect domestically produced rice. Even if that was, they say country rice, it's not civilized rice, it's not as nutritious, and it's not prestigious, and so people are waiting for parboiled rice. So you're right, the president should have addressed that. That's the major. It's happening right in front of our eyes. Our people are suffering. They're in the sun, they're in the rain, they're climbing fences, and they're chasing trucks. People's lives are risk, and you don't say anything about that. You don't give hope. You don't explain the government's position in a way that will allay the fears of the citizens. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Charlie. What does
Yes.
this say about the kind of issues that the president responds to?
Well, I beg to differ from
yeah, he didn't talk about the sanctions. He didn't talk
Ahmed.
about the rice issue. He didn't talk about major happenings in the country, but Miami, somebody calling him, rebel. He didn't, someone also, my restricted visa, kind of, go ahead.
Well, the president is responding to the political culture of the country. And I think the burdens for changing the conversation, to me, more lies on those who are seeking power. They have failed to change the conversation, and the president is only playing to their game plan. So the president is not going to redirect them to the issues that they need to address. All the president has to do is to defend, and then be able to move forward with the governing policy. And to say that the president has not talked about the rice issue, to me, that would not be a fair statement. The president have responded to the rice question. And besides, I think one of the problems we continue to have in Liberia is we have been accustomed to seeing an imperial character govern the country, where that single person is viewed in an angelic form or a messianic form, that they alone have all of the solutions to the country problem, and they alone should articulate all of the country problems. This president, governing in a democratic fashion, allow lieutenants who have statutory responsibility to also communicate on behalf, like we all said, the people work at the will and pleasure of the president. So they are very instrument or agency in the country that respond to governance question. And once they are doing that, the government is working. But this idea that it has to be the president, I think is our old form of government or governance structure that is making us believe that the president is not working. And we have to appreciate that in democracy, other agency of government equally has to perform their own responsibility. It's not a one-man show.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Sheriff. Mr. Sheriff, I want you to respond to that. And on top of that, we've been calling on the president. People have called on the president to fire people that are not performing, right? Corruption. When there was corruption in the government where the LACC will indict someone, the president has refused to fire that person or speak to it. Now we have the president who say, I fired this person because they don't know diplomacy. So that's something new. Probably this is the only issue the president is going to fire people on diplomacy. Mr. Salih did good number of courses in diplomacy, and maybe you can speak to that. But he said the man don't know diplomacy. So, if does this mean that if you really want the president to do something, just mess around diplomacy?
No, so just to be clear, I think he said that America is our traditional ally. So it wasn't at the president's doing, right? So this wasn't something that he was decided to do. I mean, George Weah does not spend too much time, into learning the art of governing. I mean, he doesn't I mean, he doesn't have the intellectual curiosity to do those kinds of things. You heard him. If you listen to the entire sermon, he said that the man doesn't understand that the United States is our traditional ally. So whatever happened was perhaps, I want to speculate, a discussion between the United States ambassador and George Weah. I mean, there was something have to have happened to force him, just like he was forced to fire McGill and others. The United States government again. So Dennis, right now in this era of governance of George Weah, maybe he's going to change if he wins the second term. But right now, if you want George Weah to get rid of somebody, just talk to the U.S. ambassador. You talk to the United States ambassador to Liberia, just talk to him, and he can make one phone call, and that person will be gone. And so this is where we are. This is the unfortunate reality of this administration. When you want something get done real quick, expeditiously, protests will not help right now. You just call the United States ambassador and one phone call. That's it. And this is where we are. This is the unfortunate reality of Liberian politics as I see it. So Louis Brown losing his job, and my speculation is, based on everything that I heard George Weah says, was because, the Americans were unhappy. Remember, the American United Nations ambassador at the time said, those of you that voted against us for this decision, we're taking down names. This was during the Trump administration. We're taking names. We're taking down names. And where can they go? They go to the puppet states. They go to the puppets. They go and talk to them and say, this is what your people did. How dare you did this to us? So that's all it took. And and Brown was gone. And the thing is, Louis Brown was not going to come back into George Weah's government as long as that was hanging over his head, that that he defied the great United States. Louis Brown wasn't going to come back into government, and so Louis Brown's decision to go with Mr. Cummings, I believe was due to the fact that he found that there's no way that he's going to get back into the good graces of George Weah. And George Weah said it in his sermon. He said the man tried. He tried to get a job, and I didn't give him a job. I didn't offer him money anymore after that. So it's not like he didn't try. I think he tried but failed, and then now he goes to Alexander Cummings. So you see our politicians, they're all seeking, so it's like seek you first the political opportunity, seek you first the job, and everything else shall come after that. No one is going to do anything to lift up their country. Everybody and their brother is seeking a government job. I mean, and Louis Brown is just following that trend.
Thank you. Choppy, can you hear us? You are saying that you don't hear us, but you should hear us, else it might come from your phone or your device. Mr. Salih, let's conclude on this issue and we go to our next item.
Yeah, quickly, let me respond to Choppy. Look, we know better than that to expect that we expect the president to be the one to do everybody's job in the government. I'm not the one who advocates for that. I'm the one who tells you that the president should be the orchestra conductor, right? Who knows all the musicians and the instruments, and who should coordinate and produce this beautiful sound. And yeah, so I can be the one. It's called cadence of messaging. When there's a big disaster, when there's a big national issue of concern to citizens, there's clamoring, there's outcry, there's people protesting in the street, or people, it's all in the media. It's the topic of the day. The cadence is the head of state, the presidency has to do something, say something, inspire hope. Why are we seeing Joe Biden going to Florida? When disasters happen, why the president speaks, to the nation, or calls the governor, or goes there, or says something, and then you allow the lieutenants, the ministers, the technocrats to do the coordination, the government to government, internal, intra-government coordination, and external coordination to make it happen. We're not saying the president should be the one to do the Ministry of Commerce's work, or Ministry of Agriculture's work, or Foreign Affairs work. On that account, I think that the Chubby Charles is totally misunderstanding the position we're taking here. Secondly, I think the account Mr. Sheriff has laid out, I agree something may have happened. Something may have come from the Americans. However, Louis Brown is disputing the account. In fact, that the vote, which has been attributed to him, that vote didn't happen when President Weah was president. If I recall, I read in the media, I think Front Page Africa, somebody reported, and then Louis Brown then went on and sort of narrated the sequence of what happened, how he came back home. He was recalled for consultation, and the vote was about moving the capital city of Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, and that there was an African Union position. So he has sort of disputed the president's account that, in fact, under President Weah's administration, during Brown's tenure at the UN, there was no such critical vote that the Americans would have taken issue with Liberia, because Liberia didn't vote, right? And that he understood that, an ambassador, you don't just vote at your own whims and caprices. You vote according to the instruction you got from your capital. I don't know who understands diplomacy better than their friends, or who is whose account is the more reliable, but there's dispute about what happened there. The true thread there that I agree with is what Mr. Sheriff has just said. The Americans may have pulled a rope somewhere. Something happened that got President Weah so amped up about this issue.
Mm-hmm. And the president actually commented on the rice issue, and he said that was a gossip. Yeah, that was a gossip. Chappie is having issue here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We're talking tough here. We started with the drug bust to the president's sermon at Fokeklan. Some are saying, no, this is not a sermon, it's a hate speech. Some say, no, he was just giving a reminder. Whatever you call it, he was at the pulpit, he read some scriptures, he gave some scriptural references, and he went flowing with the gospel. So I really believe that the president sometimes would need to be a little more presidential. I mean, he's talking about government jobs, giving somebody a job as if this is something he has in his pocket. Since you're not playing with me, I'm carrying my ball. You're not playing that kind of stuff. But let's go to something that happened this week, right? Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings is the political leader of the ANC and now the standard bearer of the CPP, that's the born again collaborating political parties. He appointed what is called as Team Cummings, or the Team Cummings 2023, or the Real Change Team. And so let me start. Here are some of the names that were put forward on Team Cummings. Toga McIntosh, Louis Brown, George Wisnon, Dan Morales, Jonathan Sebwe, Julia Cassell, Mariama Sangari, Daniel Chie, Lafayette Gould, Chris Dunson, and the list goes on. I think the last is Jethro S.K. Harris. About 43 names.
44
names. Mm-hmm. And of those names, we have some people who and we're going to get into that later. But the first question that jumped out of me here is, and we wanted an ANC representative to be. I asked this question for the ANC representative who was going to be here. Is what is the team about, and what went into picking these names? I really wanted to ask the ANC person to say, what is this team for? Is it a campaign team? What is it? And what went into the picking of the name? Since we don't have an ANC person, what's your reading? What do you think? I didn't really hear the purpose of this team. I didn't hear any role assignment. I didn't hear who's doing what. Either a campaign manager, the strategy team, or the one for information and publicity. I didn't hear any of that. All right. So, in your view, what do you think this is about, and what went into picking these names? The people, is it based on what? Mr. Salib, let me start with you because you've been around campaigns for so long.
So this is called signaling. So political strategists advise the clients to signal. You signal to the public, you signal to the media, and you see the reaction. Then you come back and reorganize, right? Stratification. That's why strategy is called stratification. So I read this on a number of levels. Like you, I saw this and said, but this is not a political organization. A campaign organization, like you said, ought to have a structure. You have a campaign manager, someone who is the overarching administrator of how the campaign is conducted. And then there are various roles depending on your context and your political context, right? You have legal affairs, finance, treasurer, research people, that those who are doing opposition research, media folks, and so on. We didn't hear any of that. And so if I didn't hear any of that, I said, okay, look, this is simply signaling. They're trying to see, because Cummings is pivoting based on a number of things. In politics, and particularly campaign politics, you look at ideology, political ideologies in the political party. You have to have a viable party, unless you are a candidate, unless you are an independent candidate, right? We know he has a party, he has a viable party. And then the second thing is, what's your political ideology? What's your vision? What is this political person known for? What do they want this office for? And how do they intend to get there based on their messaging, based on their vision, based on their ideology? So we've known Mr. Cummings all along to say, look, I see that we're stagnated, we're stuck somewhere. I have some ideas. I'm sort of above the fray. I don't have any checkered record. I didn't participate in the war. I'm not corrupt. I'm a self-made. I've made my own money. Look, I want to be president to change the way things happen here, because we've done this for 100 and some odd years. We've gotten the same bad result. And so I want to change not only the narrative, the culture, and how you do things, how you govern, how you treat people, what institutions you build, and how you run these institutions. So, okay, those of us who observe these things, that's how that's the caricature that we carry him, in which we carry him. Then there's a guy who has come back to us and said, oh, listen, by the way, I'm going to do the total 360-degree opposite for you. So then you begin to analyze, what's this for? Because if it's a political strategy, if it were a political organization that was announced based on what we know political organizations ought to be, then we will start coming in to tear it apart and say, all right, why do you have this individual? Your strategy is because you've now studied, you've done your district analysis and the profile, you need this person. No matter their record, you need them because they have this following. They come from this region. They come from this ethnicity, and so forth and so on. Or that you are going to dislodge the other candidates' fields and their bases, so that you confuse them, right? Maybe you have renegades from the CDC who joins the Cummings team. Maybe you have somebody from the NPP, from the coalition that's joined. We've seen we can talk about who those are later on. So on the overarching sort of read of this, I'm looking at this team, I'm saying, all right, look, we'll come to the individual people who are named in their records and question morality of it. But I'm not looking at morality right now. I'll come to that. Human rights issues. So everything everybody's talking about in the media, I have those in my pocketbook, in my back pocket. What I'm looking at, this is signaling. Okay, this guy wants to test the water and see how people react. And then he can come back and organize and reconfigure. He also wants to throw wrench in other candidates' fields and their bases to show, listen, I'm strong in Nimba. I'm strong in the Southeast. I'm strong in Bassa. You think you got a Bassa vote? Check my people out. You think you got Bon County? Check my people out. You think you got NPP? Check my people out. You think you got people from, those who fought the war and that whole crowd and that whole following, that whole constituents? Look at my people. They do have these records. They have these following. So I can pull away from you. Okay? So those are like the three basic levels I've been looking at this. And finally, one final thing I will say to this is that I've told you time and again that in Liberia, we have people problem, right? We're a small country with barely 5 million. Of that, the highly educated, technical, elite, sophisticated in terms of those who went to school, the book people who can do things. We don't have so many of them to go around, right? So that you will have some people that really justify and personified and exemplify the politics makes bad fellows, right? Personification. And that's why this Cummings team exemplifies that. There are all kinds of bad fellows on this team that totally gives us a different Cummings than we've known all along.
Thank you. Mr. Sherry, what is Mr. Cummings trying to accomplish here with this team?
Mr. Cummings, for a long time, has told the Liberian people that he is a different politician. He said, he's a different politician. You can't continue to do the same thing over and over and again and expect to get a different result. Good talking point. But the records, Mr. Cummings's short political record, tell a different story. So certainly, we will have to now gauge Mr. Cummings by this sort of appointment. Dennis, it doesn't look like there was a careful vetting process, and even if there was a vetting process, it doesn't look like Mr. Cummings is listening to anybody in terms of appointments like this. So when you have an appointment where you have Daniel Cheer, where you have Toga McIntyre, these are the headliners now. Where you have our good friend Yeke Koluba and them, and folks like that. Then what you are signaling to the Liberian people is that you are going to do the same thing over and over and again. Louis Brown and others. So you're really signaling to the Liberian people that you're doing the same thing over and over and again, like Ahmed said. So he is looking at the other political leaders. He's looking at the other political parties. They in some ways have done the same thing, and they have gained some level of successes in doing so. You look at George Weah. You look at the CDC. The CDC is a coalition of the Congress for Democratic Change and the National Patriotic Party of Liberia, the National Patriotic Party, an offshoot of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, a dreaded warring party that completely destroyed our country. So I guess Mr. Cummings is looking at that. And what is the result when George Weah did that? They won the election. So he is trying to outdo the CDC in that direction. Like Ahmed said, so whatever area that you go to, I'm going to outdo you. I don't care about change now. So what he's basically doing is throwing everything at this kitchen sink to see what sticks. But to me, that's just cries hypocrisy, because this is not congruent to what Mr. Cummings has told us all along. All along, he's been fighting as a clean hand. I'm the clean hand of Liberian politics. You are doing the same old things here. You've destroyed our country. These are the guys who destroyed the country. I mean, he's lambasted Ben and Ayura for a very long time. He's talked about recent accusations against George Weah. But what are we seeing now? The records, Mr. Cummings' record has told us a different story. And I know that this ANC people are going to come out, they're going to come at me. But I have for a long time, defended Mr. Cummings. There's records here, recordings here that I've defended Mr. Cummings on many occasions. But when I see fit, I need to criticize him, for the reasons that I've already enumerated. This is not change, right? Because you have individuals who have a very bad record, human rights violations and the rest of it, and continue. And there are individuals who have never apologized for their role in the Liberian Civil War, who have never been held accountable for their role in the Liberian Civil War. And these are your headliners. These are the people who are going to run the new Liberia. This is inexcusable what Mr. Cummings has done. And let's call it for what it is. I mean, it's greed, it's hypocrisy, it's lack of vision, and that's what it is.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. Let's go to Choppy now. Choppy, can you hear us? Choppy, if you can hear us. Choppy, can you hear us? Choppy, you are muted. Unmute yourself. Can you hear us?
Okay, yes, I'm hearing you now.
All right, Choppy, you saw the campaign, or you saw the team of Mr. Cummings, and you've been around the CDC campaign team. Okay, looking at the team that was, we don't. First of all, let me not say, because I'm not sure if this is a campaign team. There are still things around because I did not really hear the term of reference or hear some role assignment, roles and responsibilities, so I'm not really clear. But looking at the team, or Choppy, and you've been around campaigns, what does each of the person named bring to the table? Or what do you think is informing Mr. Cummings' selection of each of the names that have been put forward so far?
Well, I think Cummings' announcement, the timing of the team, it shows to me a lack of strategic thinking on the part of the ANC. First of all, we have a big national issue that is dominating the news. The news is so choked and crowded, and you announce a campaign team. Who's going to listen to that stuff? So it's a missed opportunity. And then you wrote a very long speech, like a sophomore term paper. I mean, who's going to read all that stuff? People are crying for rights. So from a strategic perspective, Cummings missed a big opportunity. And then secondly, I'm not so much concerned of the people on the team, but if you announce a bunch of people in one slot, just one time, again shows misunderstanding. Such a campaign team you want to do what we call slow poison. You want to drop names bit by bit to keep the momentum boiling over a long period of time. But you just come and drop like a hammer. So you send all your heavyweight one time in a noise that is choking, nobody listening. So that's a natural death. That the people running the Cummings campaign team, they are not strategic thinkers. They don't understand the political theater. They have no understanding of the situation in the country. And it poses a big challenge to them from government's perspective. So just on those 2 points alone, places coming out at the back room of the political theater.
Mr. Charlie, so what do you think this team is?
I mean, the team, like we all said, was not defined. I suspect to be a campaign team because those people that have been named of the ANC, they are not county elected officers, they are county coordinators. So I expect them to be maybe people who will be policy makers for Cummings, people serving in different capacity. But to announce these people at this time, this late day, so by the time we finish vetting them and tearing them apart, I mean, they will be having no strength to moving forward to engage in politics. They will not be fresh.
Well, Choppy, we are having some issue with your connection there. So let's look at some of these names, right? and then we're going to go into it because I don't know where to start. But few of the names that came to mind that are people are like little iffy about. Let me put them on the screen for you. Okay. So when the names were announced, people started looking at some people. Number one, David Daniel Chia, former defense minister of President Taylor. You have Toga McIntosh, also of the NPFL, the one who many say helped plan the notorious octopus. Julian Duncan Cassell, from former gender minister under President Sirleaf. Some people say, we have Louis Brown, another political, that's a national security advisor to President Taylor, and also a strategist and ideologue of the NPFL. You have Dan Morias, again, another NPFL linked guy who was superintendent of Maryland County. He was in the TRC, has doing some bad stuff. And then you have Honorable Yeke Koloba, someone also who has admitted that he too fought for Model. So people are saying, and Mr. Sharif, you said, maybe Mr. Cummings, is he trying to I don't know, out rebel a point? if I would say it that way.
Yeah. If there's such a term, he is trying to out rebel the rebels. He's trying to out rebel the MPP rebels, and the MPP, whether we like it or not, the MPP is still significant in some ways, because the MPP was able to form a coalition with the Congress for Democratic Change, and they are still relevant in some portion of the country. Not as back in the early 2000s with Taylor, but they're still relevant. So when you go into that breadbasket and bring out all these big wigs from the NPFL slash NPP, you've sort of deprived the NPP of the intellectual leadership. Keep in mind, these are the guys like Louis Brown, guys like Toga McIntosh Gawick. These were the intellectual leaders of the NPFL.
Let me point out also that he left the NPFL and joined IGNU, I think, before the Octopus. So I may be wrong that he did not help plan Octopus, but he was. These were the guys that give legitimacy to the war machine, but he left to join the IGNU. Go ahead.
Yeah, these guys gave legitimacy, and even with the defection to IGNU, he did not speak out against the ills of the NPFL and what the NPFL did at the time in Greater Liberia. So that is the problem. Some of the guys are going to come over now and say, well, I didn't do anything. You didn't see me with a gun. I didn't do X, Y, and Z. But you were there when a lot of planning was done. My good friend, my comrade, ex-comrade, Louis G. Brown. I mean, you were there when the planning stages of some of the brutalities were committed by the NPFL. And you were there when Charles Taylor planned to create his own alternative government in Banga, the NPRAG, and these institutions terrorized Liberia for about over 5, 6, 7 years time period. And so for Mr. Cummings now to not study that, Mr. Cummings surrounded to me, I feel like the same thing that we've been through. Mr. Cummings is surrounded now by individuals who will say, yes, sir. Okay, can I do this? Oh, yes, sir. You good. Oh, you're the richest man in Liberia. You can do anything. So Dennis, the new Liberia, we have to have individuals who are amenable. We have to have politicians who can listen to advisors. What do I keep saying? Look, on this show, I have been privileged to work with very good Liberians here. Cole is one of them. Ahmed Wade. Wade is on there now, so congratulations to her. She's part of the team, but she's swamped, with all these NPFL people. And so it is very difficult to get a voice in there if you are just, perhaps the lone person trying to, give some sensible advice. So, just going back and not losing track of what I was saying, Mr. Cummings is surrounded by people, I think, who would tell him what he wants to hear. And that's a disappointment, because if you're working in corporate America, you work in corporate America, you succeed in corporate America, you work with a team. So for him now to abandon that concept, to go with the concept of, might mix right. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win the presidency. That's not how you're going to win. That's not how you're not going to outdo George Weah this way. George Weah is enormously popular with the Liberian people, to our disdain. He is very popular. So you're not going to outdo him with all these MPFL big wigs, that you're trying to show to the Liberian people that this is your reform. Is this the new Dennis? Listen, the war was fought in 1990, 1989 to what, 2003?
Yeah.
These guys were with Charles Taylor in the bushes from that time to now. Do you want to tell me that these guys are relevant? These are the politicians that you can't go anywhere else and seek anything. You can't have a real change team. This team to me is a disappointment team, right? Congratulations, Wade. I mean, you deserve. But for the most part, this is a disappointment team. These guys need to come over here, go somewhere and look for real advisors. I'm sure my good brother Ahmed, will offer his good services and time. We don't want to lose him, but if they call him now, I'm sure he will give them some good advice. They need people, not, yes men and so on and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. Now, for those of you who may be maybe young to follow the war, and we get it from the TRC, let me bring you up to speed of what happened in Liberia, the war. There are some violations as documented by the TRC. And the TRC probably is the only or the most authoritative group that documented things that happened in the war. So the TRC have some violations that they listed. Of all the violations, NPFL did 63,843 violations, meaning 41%. The LUR, 18,700, LPC, and on and on and on. So those were the violations. And some of the violations included corrupt malpractices, money laundering, extortion, and you name it. So at the end, the TRC documented people on sanction list. There's an individual responsible for committing economic crimes. One of them, number one here, is Louis Brown, managing director of LPRC at that time. And what is being charged for is MP. If you go to our violation code, you will see misuse of public property funds. That's MP. That's what he was being charged with. Still on the sanction list, you also have number 20, Benina Ure, who was charged with LAMILTE, and the list goes on. So I'm saying this to say that Benina Ure was berated. I played a clip at the beginning of the show by Mr. Luscious Toe of the ANC, saying that this man, this is what he did. He's in the TRC. When it came to, he didn't mention Louis Brown. So today, during the announcement of the team, he introduced Louis Brown as someone who was national security advisor to the president of Liberia, and he, I believe, deliberately left out Charles Taylor. But if you look at what he berated Benina Ure about, that's exactly what Louis Brown did, but he left that out. So it shows to me that what somebody told me is true. That and I'm going to quote a verse here, Mr. Sharif, you say, because I'm used to be a Sunday school teacher here. That if anyone be in Christ is a new creation, right? So it seems to me now that the verse now is, if anyone be in Cummings, he is a new creation. Yes. All things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new.
Reverend.
Just as Cummings is new creation now.
Go ahead, Mr. Sherry. So this whole idea, I mean, I'm focusing on the MPFL connection. I know we're going to talk about other things, but I'm trying to highlight those first so as to give people the chance to respond.
Yeah. So real quickly, and I'm going to make this rapid. So
I was talking about Mr. Salif. Now you again.
Okay. Cool.
Dennis, I'll be quick too. You know, I've heard on the radio and other places some of the ANC surrogates justifying this as well. But Mr. Cummings has always called, no, not Cummings, there are people like Yeke and others who have been accused and indicted under the TRC have called, particularly on Representative Koluba, have called on the government to bring the war and economic crimes court so that they could vindicate themselves with that. And so the government hasn't done that. Really? Are you serious? So because the government hasn't implemented that TRC recommendation to bring war crimes court to Liberia for these individuals to be tried, you can actually enlist them in your political organization. Not only, them supporting you in the background and so on, but you actually bring them and announce them as your team, presumably your political organization that will drive your campaign to a potential presidency. To me, that's a very weak argument. So what would Mr. Cummings do? Let's say he got elected president and he has all these individuals who is not us who are saying the Truth and Reconciliation Commission has indicted them. Dennis, you just read a list and the associative crimes that these individuals have committed as the TRC investigator, right? So we can say allegedly the commission did a very systematic the coming up of the evidence and piecing it together.
Mr. Salim, before you continue there, he also from the TRC, September 2, 1999, the massacre of about 25% in Negebuzu, Lofa County, the massacre was blamed on the defense minister, Daniel Chie. This is from the TRC report. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I was just saying, listen, number one, the people problem that we have in Liberia, Cummings is a victim of that. Number two, I think he's also a victim of bad strategy and and advice, frankly. I know he has smart, brilliant people. Some of them come on the media. We could see sense in a lot of what they say. But when you tell me what the leader's vision is, what ideology are they drawing that vision from? Who are they surrounding themselves by? These are indicators of potential good, inclusive governance. These are indicators that this leader will lead this country with bold vision, with able teams, diverse teams, people who regardless of who they are, where they come from in terms of ethnicity, religion, and as long as they're all citizens and they're able, you can drive them. That's what they attempted at. But Cummings, you carry yourself as the darling of the West, so to speak, right? You have all these lobbyists in DC, as we hear, trying to really project this image and be in good books of the Americans. Individuals who can travel, some of them, because they've been indicted by the TRC, because they've been investigated to have been found to have been complicit in egregious human rights violation of the country, having destroyed the country, having brought Liberia to where it is. These very young people we've been talking about when we discuss cocaine, some of them are passing as Zogos. They are victims of some of these individuals. And these are the people Mr. Cummings will bring them on his team, and his people are saying, look, these are good Liberians. Salif employed them. They work in the Taylor government. They work President Salif. Louis Brown was information minister. Doga McIntosh was foreign affairs minister. This person was that person was that. To me, this is politics also about optics, right? It's about the image, sort of the vibe you send out. That personification of your vision, your ideology, and who you are and what you can do differently. Politics is about contrast, showing contrast. I'm different than George Weah. I'm better than George Weah. See my vision. Look at the people that I'm working with. And Mr. Cummings has failed on all of those scores. If this announcement is anything to go by, I'll conclude by saying I agree with Choppy that, first of all, when you announce this, the country is in crisis. Our national staple, rice, people, the ordinary people are hungry. They're in the street, they're crying. The media has been dominated, like Choppy said, by a national major problem. And there you are announcing a team. So what kind of leader are you? Who's advising this man? What's your vision? Somebody could say, well, now it's not everything is about timing in politics. The timing isn't right. The optics is not going to be good. Not only do we have certain people that people will begin to question and tear apart, but also you cannot announce now. Let's wait for things to calm down. People to have their food and everything and be comfortable. So, but just judging by some of those decision points, and some of what we see from a distance and here there are people justify. It leaves a lot to be desired.
Mr. Charlie, here are some of the justification, or here are some of the reasons, or people in ANC is saying. Number one, they say, well, this is campaign team. It's not cabinet minister. This is not a party structure. So you are reading too much into it. Mr. Cummings is taking people from all over and to put something together. So don't look at it like this is a cabinet or people that are going to work in his government. That's one. Number two, is that Mr. Cummings is trying to build a big tent. He said, everyone, he wants to work with everybody. Even though he couldn't work with Ava, fire Ava for the vote. But they say he want to work with everybody. And then are you trying to exclude people who are Liberians and also because they've been allegedly implicated somewhere? What's your response?
Well, I think I'm reminded of a commentary from the former President Salif. She tried to describe Liberia behavior as a conundrum wrapped in a paradox. And I think when we look at that statement, we look at the problem, and even with the Cummings team, even the criticism against Cummings teams, we see that we facing a metaphysical challenge where Du Bois would call that double consciousness. At the same time, we are saying to ourselves as Liberians that coming from the Civil War, those vices that caused problem, where people were labeled because of their association with all facts, people were murdered, bad things happen to other people, whether because of their tribe, their political affiliations, their friends, their family. We are saying these vices were dangerous and we should not practice these same vices. But yet, at the same time, we're trying to move away from those kind of behavior to build a new nation, and we are still using those same tools as a measure of governance or politics. So I'm going to step back a little bit and disagree with the bashing of the Cummings campaign because of the MPFF factor. I think it's a very dangerous play to characterize people because of the past association. I saw such characterization to mean you have no place in our government, in our politics. We should be able to
human rights record. If you hope people,
we should hold people accountable based on facts. Again, like I said, we want to get away from these things. And we came from a very bad place. And once we start doing that, we're going to go backwards because everybody will start labeling people, will start having, and then we'll forget about the real issues. Let's deal with real facts. There are a lot of criticism to go against the Cummings team. I mean, I have a lot of criticism against the Cummings team. But I'm not going to get involved into this war bashing. This war bashing, they will have a look on all sides of the
war bashing.
Yeah, there's
what the TRC war bashing. People die.
Yeah.
People die.
Yeah. But
my
people.
That's what I'm saying.
I cannot. But the MPFL too.
So now,
Choppy, you were justified because
CDC and NPP are in a coalition. Hold on, guys. One at a time. I cannot allow you to sit here. My people die. The stray dogs of the 90s. Vultures of the 90s, the bellies of stray dogs are full of the bodies of my people. You're going to sit here and tell me my people were killed and left in the street. They were murdered. They were murdered and left in the streets. And some of these people that are parading around now were running behind Charles Taylor. They were the intellectual leaders of Charles Taylor's brutality against the Liberian masses.
Okay,
so people die. So we're not going to minimize. So somehow to minimize what happened in Liberia, This is part of our history. It's unfortunate history, part of our history, but it is part of our history. So yes, we have to talk about this. This has not been adjudicated, and it should be adjudicated. Some of the perpetrators have agreed that they need to clear up their names. So they have admitted. So this is not by the figment of our imagination that we're saying that something happened in Liberia, unless you're born yesterday. But those who were around at that time, this was a terrible time. Those of us who are able to sit on this platform now are lucky to be alive today. So this is not a joke. This is serious.
Thank you. Go ahead, Chappie.
Okay, so I hope I will have a chance to respond sufficiently too. Again, there's a problem right here. You are talking about your people die. My people also die.
But you're minimizing your people. I don't care because you minimize the death of your people. You don't care about your people. I care about
Let's be fair with the discussion.
I care about everybody because you don't care about your people. You minimize the death of your people. So I don't care if you minimize the death of your people, the murder of your people by individuals who Louis Brown and others supported. I don't care if you do that. But I'm going to tell you on this forum that I care about everybody, and I care particularly that my people were assaulted, were brutalized, were vandalized, and their homes were vandalized, and everything was done to them. This was a genocide against a group of people. This war was not about removing Samuel Doe. It was not about removing a regime in Monrovia. It was about a mass genocide against a particular group of people or particular groups of people. And this is what I'm saying. That is a fact.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif. Let Chappie land.
Well, I think we can do that, Mr. Sharif. For the sake of this discussion, we could find a different day for us to have this conversation. If you want to relitigate this war about who was brutal or who was brutalized. So let's save the debate for a different day, and let's deal with this with this political question.
This is not fact.
Yeah, because we don't want to distract from the program.
That's not true. This is fact. Some of the people have admitted.
So the TRC itself, if you read the TRC report, the TRC Act, the TRC report are allegations. They are not facts. That's why there's a recommendation that goes to a court. It is only at a competent court, once adjudicated, that facts will be established, guilt will be established. The TRC report, again, read the report. These are allegations that were collected from the field. Somebody say John Brown, somebody say Mohammed Sharif killed my father. He killed my father in the village. The TRC recalls that. And that's an accusation against Mohammed Sharif. Mohammed Sharif must be taken to a court and be found guilty of those charges. So like I said, we'll save that debate. Another day we can have that conversation. I'll be very prepared to have that debate with you. So let's stay with this Cummings team. The Cummings team, like we all are saying, I mean, and I agree with the commentary that the presentation of this team should have told us that Mr. Cummings was ready for the presidency, or he was ready to govern the country. The fact that he put out his team at the time, and the composition of this team not defined, what are the functions, leaves everybody confused. Tells us again about the kind of leadership he intends to govern the country, a confused leadership. And I want to take it one more step further, that this query or this perception we have about somebody running a multi-billion-dollar company or multinational company in advanced society translate to running a country in Liberia is a false perception and a false analysis. I can be a CEO of Coca-Cola in America, does not qualify me to be president of Liberia. It does not qualify me, because there are different issues involved with governing a country like Liberia and running a Coca-Cola company in the United States. A very organized company that is already functional, you have all the governance, the organization apparatus, governance machinery in place, as opposed to Liberia, where you need innovation, creativity, different skill set to build a nation. You need nation building skill set. We don't need managerial skill set. So we have to look at these dichotomy to be able to decide whether leaders can govern. And Cummings, yes, maybe he may show us later on, but for now, from what we've seen, he still has work to do.
He still need to come to convince us that he's capable of doing the task before us. But for now, I have not seen that performance. I have not seen that ability to govern. I have not seen that strategic understanding about the local situation in Liberia. He's far removed from it. He needs more work.
Somebody was telling me, say, look at Pat calling ticket to black. But let's leave it at that. Here we see that most of the people that are on this team were just recently endorsed Mr. Cummings. I'm talking about Toga McIntosh. I'm talking about Josh Wisner. I'm talking about Louis Brown, and the list goes on. So I'm wondering, I mean, who prior to this happening, or is it because did they come so that become part of this team, or prior to this happening, to this endorsement, who did Mr. Cummings have to make up a team that, you know, or is he, another thing that I saw there is it's like he's getting people from all over. Maybe he's attracting people because of his astuteness and his political, you know, that he's attracting these people. But others are looking at it that he continued to fishing in other people's ponds and getting fish from there, right? He continues, and people call that cash violence. One of the reasons why the Unity Party were calling for black voting. So let's look at how people make up this team. How you get some from the UP, some from the Liberty Party, some from the. Is it Mr. Cummings attracting these people? Is he actually buying them as people are alleging? Are people really gathering around Mr. Cummings to say, well, yeah, he's the guy? Or is it that people are, as Poto said, you know, you hang your clothes where the sun is shining? Are people seeing something in Mr. Cummings that this guy might be the president, and so if I really want something in government, I need to go there? Mr. Salih, what are you saying here?
I think we'll go with Poto that you're hanging your coat where the sun is shining. You know, Liberia, unfortunately, we laugh about it, but we wish it were a joke, which is not. So these are individuals, and you know, in fairness, there are a lot of people. Some are people they attempted at diversity, which they believe they failed at, and they didn't even attempt at newness and generational change and inspiration of hope, and you know, and considering the demographic, the current look, the World Bank says over 60% of Liberians are individuals who are under 30. Okay, maybe you're under. I can look at that data. Maybe you're under 25. So you're talking about a youthful population, a youthful country, and then you have some of the big names are people who have played and played and played in the field for decades and decades, and we haven't seen the market vision and change that they've brought. That was the first thing that stood out to me. And secondly, we have a problem where the individuals who are used to certain lifestyle, they have, you know, the theater is very contracted. People don't have other things that they really do to sustain their lifestyle and who they are, you know. So politics is where it is. So like if we went with Poto, this is where they believe this is the vehicle that will lead them to that sunshine. And so they hang on this vehicle. That's more of what really it is. And you will do anything and everything to cultivate that relationship, to endear yourself towards such a person, which some of these individuals have done. Some have, some, you know, have had a stink with the CDC government and left, like Louis Brown and McIntosh and others. And now they've come on the Cummings side because they're not in good books with the CDC administration. They don't see any future there. So people join political organizations, they endear themselves to a political leader or politician for various reasons. On the other hand, a politician and their strategists, they also seek out talents, seek out a support, and seek out individuals who will serve and play key roles in a political organization for various reasons. For example, is it somebody because of their technical expertise? Is it because they have resources? Is it because their political genius and vision? Is it because of the region they come from? Their following, the people that they draw. Are they a magnet? Will they bring votes to me? I have accused Cummings on this platform many times that He doesn't understand Liberia. He needs to understand, because the politics is about knowing the political culture. It's about understanding where you're operating. Maybe this is part of that attempt. Like, look, I can't win with my model, because this is a wrong body politics for it. So I'm going to play the dirty hand as it is, like everybody is. So I'm going to just jump in the pool, do the kitchen sink. If I can cite a Muhammad Sharif, use the kitchen sink, see if something sticks. Because this is a society where people are very forgiving. They will do horrendous things to one another, and you have some despicable individuals in the society who then they go and elect that person to be their leader, and they go around sinking behind them. So there are many reasons. We're not privy to all the reasons. We're only reacting to the signaling that they've signaled to us, and we ourselves are projecting and reacting to that. But again, to summarize, it may be he's done his calculation and said, look, I'm going to go to Bond County and get some prominent citizens. I'm going to go to Maryland County. That's where I claim I come from. People have disputed how much rooted am I there. So if I get a Dan Morales and certain key citizens from there, or I'm going to get a Jalo, I'm going to get some key Muslim members of this team to show the Muslim community that I'm looking at, care about them. I'm going to go to Grand Basso. That's kind of what they've done. Like, they've gone everywhere. But sometimes this if you're not strategic, you're not very calculated, you didn't do your homework, you didn't do the research, it can backfire and be counterproductive. We used to be taking an exam. They say you look at an exam paper, you see where your strength is. Okay, let me solve these math problems, right? But if you all over the place and time is up, then you didn't really care.
That's how I passed the national exam. That's how you pass. That's how I passed.
And you're everywhere all over the place, right? Okay, maybe you are lucky, but what if he's not lucky? What if this backfires? Because then some of these people will go back to their villages, to their regions and their towns, and their people will then begin to put them under the microscope to scrutinize them and take issues with them. And again, it could backfire. It has both benefits, potential risk, and potential benefits to it. So
did any of you observe this, that Mr. Cummings read out this list, right? And the list went like this, right? He started with Toga McIntosh Gilway, Louis Brown, Josh Wisners, Dan Marias, Jonathan Sobey, Julian Duncan Cassell. And then when he concluded, ending with Jethro S.K. Harry. And then, by the way, Samuel Dean is from right here, Atlanta, Georgia. And so, Samuel, congratulations. If I remember, I think he went with on the Buakai team. I want to remember, but now he ended up there. All right. We also saw that Emmanuel Yato, probably the only one from the diaspora. I don't know where he is now, but he's been here several times, who's been on the team. But Mr. Cummings said something very important. He said this is no in any particular order. And
you might not as well have said that, Dennis, because
that's my question, right? Why was it necessary to mention that?
There was no order. If you had named, say, Toga McIntosh, campaign manager, Louis Brown, legal advisor, if you were a lawyer, I don't know, this person, treasurer, this person, research team, or fundraise, whatever, coordinator, then we would have started, okay, so why you say no particular order? Let's see if you name this person before this person. But it wasn't that. So you was then playing into that personality politics, knowing that names that he's calling, the only currency he had there was that these individuals are known for different reasons in society.
And to respond to all this, you call Louis Brown, who's the second person on the list. So just like they've been saying recently around here, nobody's stupid here, right? So I'm like, come on now, this is in some order. Don't tell us what we don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to join the and we see some callers here already, 605-313-6004, and the code is there. But let me read a few comments here. This one, there's a one that is very consistent here. Say, they are 44. Why are you picking on just few? Joseph Conto said, you are focused on 5 individuals while dismissing 39 others Liberians who are part of this team. And then Coleman said, Mr. Sherry, where were you when the late President Doe was killing the Guild and the manor from? Mr. Sharif is not justifying anything. He's only saying people who did things in the war, including the AFL, should be held accountable.
And Mr. Sharif has always been consistently condemning and you know, just going after, you know, dictators and stuff like that. And you know, but he doesn't listen to that. But we'll come to that at some point.
Right. Our friend Sam Waller, who he said the Cummings on display today is not the Cummings who served the CAO of Coca-Cola. The transformation is unbelievable. So there's and again, Houston Brooks said, in as much as Mr. Cummings is wealthy and intellectual, his every public move have shown him to be ignorant of the Liberian political terrain. Even though he may be a great president, he does not know how to get to the presidency. I wonder, okay. Vivian say, Victoria Cooper say, you guys have all these good ideas. Is Cummings a magician to know how and what you think? If you don't come on board, let's be fair. If the capable is not available, we will make the available capable. And you are wrong. The capable are available.
Right.
You know, so don't do that. Darling said Louis Brown was so corrupt, much so that Taylor got scared and fired him. Taylor fired Louis Brown. That's true. He built up a mansion around the Robert Field Highway, and even Taylor had to fire him. Mr. Choppy Charlie, respond to our comments, and then I go to take some calls here.
Yeah, the comments, I agree with most of the comments. The sentiment expressed regarding the war criticism, to me, has no place. It has no validity. Is far removed from the political discourse, and we have to look to more substantive criticism of Cummings. Mr. Cummings, you know, I was hearing that maybe the diversity in the team it shows some points for Cummings, or maybe the people from the different part of the country should show some strength for Cummings. But I say Cummings is late in the game. If Cummings was just getting involved in the politics of the country to run for president, I would give him great points for the diversity of the team. Cummings should have had such a team already, having ran for president in the last elections and has been around, and he declared intention he's still running. He should have had such a team a long time ago. That team should have been working across the country. Cummings himself should have been seen in his hometown, his base. He should have a camp over there. So to now, even for Cummings, the attempt here to even show that, you know, I'm diversifying my team and I get people from all over at this stage, it means that he's very late. He's very late in the game. And it shows that he still has a far way to go. You ran for elections the last time. You should have learned lessons. You should have understood that you needed to do these things.
Thank you. Princess Johnson said he still cares about change and has clean hands, but nobody in the country is good. So obviously you're going to be forced to work with some of them. But at the end, when he's the president, he's going to set the tune. And that's when you're going to see the real change. And I've heard this over and over, right? Those guys did what they did because of the leaders they had. Under Cummings, it's going to be different. In other words, Cummings is this clean guy. You know, all these guys, no matter where you come from, he's just going to use you as a vehicle to get there. When he gets there, he's going to be this clean guy. Ask Mr. Weah about this war crime code and other things. Right. And you were saying Mr. Weah also, or Choppy, made the allegation of Louis Brown being a rebel. So the idea of people having linked to rebels is not a mute argument, right? Mr. Cummings have just written linking Weah to Law and Model. Weah has just fired back, telling Louis Brown, you are the rebel that I disarmed. So the whole idea of holding people accountable for the atrocities, for the killing of people, including my father, I'm not going to take it lightly. It's very personal to me. And people that have their hands in the war, we continue to call on them. For more, check out my personal experiences on dennisjar.blogspot.com, my account of the suffering we went through in the war. And so the people that have hands, we continue to call on them if they can come clean and tell them.
Yeah. I don't think my argument here is that we shouldn't hold people accountable, but the bashing of a particular group
What
to
does
say that they are
bashing mean?
responsible, because what I was hearing is the MPFL, and that
No,
kind of
because the
propaganda is
people
not
that
going
are
to
there
fly.
are NPFL. If you are talking about Daniel
Yeah,
Chia, you're not going to talk about Lur.
no,
Daniel Chia
but
is
I mean,
NPFL.
there are other people. There are other people there, and that's what I'm saying.
So, I mean, on the team, are there people
This
from
is a
other
bad
war factions?
strategy, and I can tell anybody politically it's a bad strategy to bash the MPFA as a political tools to gain political relevance. That's not a very good political strategy, and we've seen that happen in the country repeatedly. Over the last three elections, that argument did not fly. That argument has never flown. It's not going to fly.
It's Liberia. Anything goes. It's Liberia.
No. It is not because it is Liberia.
Let me take my colors.
It is not because it's Liberia. That
It's
argument is not going to
Liberia.
fly.
Let me
Anything
take
goes.
colors now because
You
they
got
say
The basket of the MPFL is not going to fly.
You
no,
got
it's
rebels.
not NPFL. They say Kai
You have a
Fallow
rebel
to
coalition.
CDC has done Mariah is to ANC, right?
You can hold rebels accountable. You can critique people for their rebel behavior. That's good. It's fair. It's fair politicking. But to demonize one group of people as being responsible for a country problem, that's where we take the breaks.
The people that Cummings have appointed on his team are NPFL people. They are not from Ulimo. That's what the criticism. But let me take a call here.
How do you know? Do you know everybody on the Cummings team?
Look, Choppy, I don't know where you're coming from. We wanted to let this.
If you're MPFL sympathizer, bro, but this
all right, let me take
your calls. I think we should have a different debate about this.
Our first caller here is Benjamin Jonah. Ben, you are live. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my only problem with the list is this. Like those 5 guys that you keep putting up, if I were Mr. Cummings, I would not have made you guys public. One. Now, the second thing is that the way how he put them out there, he exposed them to more attack from the CDC government.
You miss scrutiny.
Yes, and we have seen that when the president went after. So it's like he put them in more harm way. But but these guys should have just worked undercover because of making them show up on that list just gave the CDC more ammunition. And it's so surprising that the CDC guy on the show is trying to defend these guys because it works for him politically because it's like,
he got Joel Howard Taylor and Prince Johnson.
They're all doing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But he's not saying it because he loves Mr. Cummings. He's not saying it because it works for them politically. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me take our second caller here. Our man from Honolulu, Houston Brooks. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hello, team. Hey, look, I want to speak directly to Mr. Choppy. I think my dear brother, from his comments, makes me draw the conclusion that he never read the TRC report. Yes, I agree. They are allegations. They are documented hard work of people that came about with that report. So while it is not a legal decision, and yes, these allegations must go to court, people that have their names on that list are what we call tinted people of questionable moral characters. And if these people have self-respect, they will have not even be on the Liberian political scene just because of that stain that is attached to their name. They should have to be focused on clearing their name. So I tell you what, Cummings team, even though there are few people on the list of many people, it does nothing for me. It does nothing for me. And in as much as I would not like to say this, I keep saying it. If these people underestimate the popularity and the power of George Weah, they are going to be shocked in 2023 because I haven't seen anything that Mr. Cummings has done so far since he's been on the Liberian political scene that shows that he's ready to be president and that he's surely going to win. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you so much, Houston. Let's go to Mr. Evans Morris. Evans, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. John. I don't know if that trophy man fought for the MPFL. They ain't tell us on the show for that. But let me get to my point quickly. You know, what's up with Cummings right now from George Weah? What's up with You know, besides that, he used to be the chief administrative officer at Coca-Cola. What's up with in charge of the political sphere right now? You know, there's a saying going on right now. Nobody's stupid here. Like I said before, our only Cummings team in 2017, we're looking at him as this, you know, like Mr. Sharif said, a generational change. That's what most Liberians was looking for, and we saw him to be that guy who could bring it. But now he's associating himself more and more with these people. He's not that guy. You know, there's a saying in America, trust me, you're not that guy. Mr. Cummings is not that guy that can strong arm his way to the presidency. He doesn't have the characteristics to strong arm his way there. Those boys would use him, take him money at the end of the day. When he lose the presidency, they'll go back into the corner and they'll where he came from. This is so disappointing. Who's going to move George Weah from there? Who's our other hope? Sleepy Joe Boyka? Come on, man. Thank you again for taking my call.
Thank you. Let me bring on Mr. Joseph Conto. Joseph, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Dennis, thank you for taking my call.
Thank you.
Hey, I got a couple of things here. First of all, we as Liberians, we need to step back. We quick to react, then later on we start to think. Instead of thinking first before reacting.
Yeah.
The list that was put out, Mr. Cummings indicated that it was an initial list and that more people will be added to that list.
Right. But these were the foundation.
There are 44 individuals names on that list. Among them, everybody is focused on 5 individuals on that list and dismissing all the other Liberian people that are on that list. You're going to tell me. Liberia went to war.
Hold on, Joseph. Let me answer that quickly. Sharif congratulated Wade on the list. I congratulated Sam Dean, and we also mentioned George Wallace. But it is not we are not the one focusing on them. Mr. Cummings did focus on them because this was a top 10. In the top 10, those names were there, and Mr. Louis Brown was the one who responded on behalf of the team. So Mr. Cummings did focus on them. Go ahead, sir.
Well, first of all, what we need to understand is that the war that we went through, for the length of years that we went through that war, we have a lot of bad people.
Yeah.
A lot of bad people than good people. I will tell you that much.
I disagree with that. But go ahead.
You can disagree, but that's my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I was there in Liberia during the war.
I was
there throughout.
I was.
From 1989 all the way to 1997. The day I left Liberia to come to the state was on July 19, 1997, the day of the election that brought Charles Taylor to the presidency. So I was there throughout, even April 6th, everything I saw it. With that being said, for us to say, to conclude that Mr. Cummings should not allow other people to come aboard, and Mr. Cummings has said consistently that where Liberia is right now, we need everybody to work together to move Liberia forward. And he has said consistently that this thing is a big thing. If we start to attack other people and say they did that, we're not going to move Joe Weah for office. All these people will follow Joe Weah, and guess what? He will stay there, and our country will get worse than what it is today. So Mr. Cummings has said this. Mr. Cummings has said that right now Mr. Cummings is not he has not won the election.
Right.
To say that he's going to put these people into job and what have you. Some of these people that are supporting Mr. Cummings, they did not resign from the party. Right. They are still with the party. But they are lending support to Mr. Cummings. And one of the candidates, the 3 major candidates that are there.
Joseph, before we have more callers, I want to bring in more people. But before you go, let me ask you. There's a guy called Isaac Vatokba who co-authored a book in which he quoted the president, then celebrity George Weah, describing his wife. Mr. Cummings fired him. And so if Mr. Cummings is interested in working with everybody, why didn't he work with Ava on his team?
And the reason being, the situation that happened with Ava is quite different
from Mr. Louis Brown and the rest of them that everybody is focused on now.
So atrocities is less of a crime? All right.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Mr. Alva talked about even though he published the book was written before he came up on Mr. Cummings' team. And when the book was published, there was a huge backlash about it. So because of that, Mr. Cummings said he didn't want a lot of distraction. He allowed Mr. Alva to leave.
Right. So there's a backlash now. So is he going to allow Louis Brown to leave because of the backlash?
Basically, the problem there is that Mr. Cummings can ask everybody who took part in the war to leave. It means that what the Latino people will need to do now is to pass a law to say that everybody who took part in the war should not vote.
Thank you.
Because if you vote for somebody, it means that you are supporting them. You don't need to lay your support to nobody because you took part in the war.
Thank you.
I think that would be a fair thing to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. John Maulo. Is our friend here from ANC. Mr. John Maulo, you are live.
Yeah. Thank you and good evening to the panelists you have here.
Mr. Maulo, sorry if I put you on the front page because from what I learned, you are not, nobody's supposed to represent the ANC until the person they're going to send to focus on Liberia. So I'm not trying to pin you to say ANC. All right, so go ahead.
Exactly.
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I'm speaking in my own capacity, not as a spokesman for the ANC.
Definitely, you are right. Thank you.
It's amazing that, I always say Liberian people are confused. And even the ones that are supposed to be educated are confused themselves.
I know.
If any one of your panelists want to tell me what was the basis for rejecting Mr. Cummings' first attempt at the presidency, wasn't it that because he was new, he was not into Liberian politics? Now, I want Mr. Sharif over there, Mohammed Sharif, who knows how to do everything and has done nothing, to tell me 10 people in Liberia who he can name right now that nobody will have problem with, who is active in Liberian politics. The problem here is that if we want something, then we go for it. And if we don't want it, then we don't criticize it. Mr. Cummings, he said he has clean hands. He didn't say you have clean hands. He said he has. And he still has. But the people that you have to deal with, even Jesus Christ, when he came on this earth, they didn't send 5 Jesus. They sent 1. He came and dealt with sinners in the earth. When you go to a place, you deal with what you have.
Right.
That's the tool you have.
Yeah.
When you become the leader, you set the tune.
So
somebody was trying to compare with John Weah.
No.
The difference is the intellectual ability to make decisions and to know what you want. George Weah has no political will, and that's why he's failing.
right.
Mr. Cummings has proven in his own life that he can make decisions and make hard decisions. So if he is the leader, the rest of the people follow.
All right. So why you couldn't work with Benina Ure?
He doesn't have to.
Okay.
It's a strong man argument.
Working with Benina Ure until Benina Ure decided to be deceptive.
Benina
He
Ure.
worked with Benina Ure until he decided to be deceptive.
Thank you.
And they went their separate ways.
All right. Understood. Thank you, sir. Let me bring on Jonathan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan, Tota, you're live.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ja. My name is Jake Kidewi Arizona Tota.
Go ahead, JK.
Yeah. Mr. Ja, for the list presented by Arizona Cummings, it is a clear manifestation that Mr. Cummings is political novice. The fact that the man went to the first election, he was defeated. He claimed to be a clean man and told the Liberian people that we cannot do the same thing and get new results. But in bringing the same old people and you expect all for us to see new things. It can't happen, Mr. Ja. Locally list, Toka Martindale, Louis Brown, Joy Whistler, And all the people that you need, these are people who are corruption scandal in the past. So what Mr. Cummings want to tell us, he claims to be a clean hand. When you putting people in line that will lead a campaign team who have a bad character. Louis Brown was fired because the house that he built on Robinson Highway it cost over $1 million. They don't fire him. This is the man that you want for him to lead a campaign. So can we trust the man? The man is contradicting himself. He proved to be a clean man, but he's not a clean man. Hey. This is the man that worked with Yeke Koluba. Yeke Koluba called the president of our nation, regardless of our political differences. You might not like George Weah, you might not like him because of policy differences, but to call a president a dog in the country, and Mr. Cummings endorsing and Yeke Koluba doing the right thing. Today, in breaking Louis Brown, who looked at our country and who were part of the war during the wartime, and putting the men at a campaign team, and would believe that Mr. Cummings is a clean man. Mr. Cummings is not a clean man, Mr. John.
Thank you.
He's not a clean man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to have a show. What do we do with our warlords and their associates? Watch out for that show. Let me bring in, I want to do it at time. My friend, Dusek Paul from Minnesota. Dusek, you're live.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. John, for taking my call. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you.
So you see, the environment, first thing first, if anybody think, Mr. Cummings or the ANC or CPD will leave any stone unturned to win this election, they must be dreaming.
Yeah.
Okay?
I can see that.
Mr. Cummings is not going to govern, before he wins. It's not going to happen. Okay? That's the first thing. The second misconception is this. When Mr. Cummings said, we're not going to keep doing the same thing and expect different result, he's talking about in terms of governing. In terms of governing.
No way.
Okay? What?
I said no way. It's not just governing. It's the way we do business.
You're right. You're not president yet. How can you be talking about governance?
Right. So the child who not born yet, the eyeball BB then.
No. That's it.
All right, go ahead, Dustin. Sorry for the interruption. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, but that's the truth. Because what can you do right now? The man is talking about in terms of governing, right? Mm-hmm. He's the vision bearer. This way he's talking about any corruption. So tomorrow when he becomes president and somebody steals and he doesn't prosecute them, then now we got reason to say Mr. Cummings, lied to us or whatsoever.
Mr. Paul, you don't want to wait for that time. Because if you get these people, then you will be half. What we have seen over and over is George Weah was going to send people to war crimes court, right? But because these people help you and you get there, you cannot bite the finger that feeds you. So the people that help you get there, the Basel people say the stake that you use to cross the river, you can throw it away.
That's a very fair point, right? That's a very fair point. And I know someday you have Mr. Cummings in your show, you have to ask him that question.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
Yeah, we're working on that.
Exactly. What now you so committed to the World Economic Crime Court, right?
Yeah.
So we all here that support Mr. Cummings. We have our own concerns. But at the end of the day, are we willing to throw the baby away with the bad water? That's the question. Mr. Thomas Sankara came to office through coup, but today he's regarded as one of the best presidents Burkina Faso ever had. Mr. Jerry Rollins came to office through coup, but today he's regarded as one of the men that set the standard for which Ghana is the path for which Ghana is on today. Now, let me make this point before I leave.
Yeah.
Mr. Cummings said this. Mr. Cummings said if you take a child and you put a child in a bad environment, right? The likelihood for a child to come out to be bad is very high because the environment is not good.
Yeah.
The system we have in Liberia is a corrupt system. Until we have somebody to go in our system to change it, we're not going to know who is good and who is not good. So if you tell me right now, you told me the corrupt system, I'm still because that's the system we have. So let's give Mr. Cummings the benefit of the doubt. Let him become president first. That's when the real judgment will begin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. When I was making research to the show, somebody said, how can you stand in the pool of mud and you put your hands up, even though you're in white shirt and you put your hands clean? How long will they remain clean?
Right.
You got to scratch your foot. And then you scratch your foot.
That's a good point you make. Let me say that again.
Mama, let's talk offline.
No, Mr. John, no, everybody hear this.
Okay.
Another thing, Mr. Cummings have never accused anybody of being corrupt. All he said was he haven't taken government money. You can interpret any way you want to. That's the reason why he went down and he started working with the likes of Ben Najure, with the likes of Boycott, even with Prince Johnson.
Yeah.
And you remember, 2017 almost formed a collaboration. Because again, he believes that he can make a change even if he gave him the devil. That's his belief. That's his core belief.
Thank you.
Don't accuse anybody of being corrupt.
Thank you. In other words, the end justifies the means. Let me bring in Darling Warwood. Darling, your life.
Yeah, thank you very much, John. Thank you for having me. Thanks to our panelists there in studio. Our country people saying that if you know that Christmas will be good, you can definitely eat.
Mm-hmm.
I think our new peace ambassador today will be Benedict Alexander Cummings. Cummings has successfully had a reunion of former rebel commanders. He's the only person who was able to bring together the former rebel commanders under the same umbrella. Look at his team, the team he just drew. I strongly believe, even though he didn't get a role to play yet, but they are his campaign team. We're talking election. We're not talking about having a picnic or birthday party. So it is glaring that Mr. Cummings will do anything and everything just to become president. It didn't mean he should negotiate with the devil. And I believe he probably thinks that Liberia, the presidency is his entitlement. And that he will do anything, just anything, break laws, break rules, break norms, and just everything to become president. And it's sad. It's a sad situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me bring in Mr. Sekou Sharif, then we take one more and go back to our panelists. Time is way. Sekou Sharif, you're live, sir. Sekou is not there. Let me take Moore. Mr. Moore, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, brother. Thank you, Mr. John.
Go ahead, Moore.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you. Great show tonight. It is so unfortunate that Mr. Cummings is not going to take even second place in the election that is coming in 2023. Why am I saying this? Because when you look at who he has surrounded himself with, Toga Gilliard, McIntosh, Morgan Caffell, Nathaniel Bounds, or Daniel Chi, and you name them. All of those people never ever supported Boycott 2017. And we told those people that George Weah was not the best alternative. Now they brought George Weah to us. George Weah has become a liability on the Liberian people. He has become a serious liability. Now, because they cannot get their way with President George Weah, they find it somewhere where they can find an easy asset for them to squander the resources of Liberia. And I said this to the Liberians. We are not going to try Liberia with Mr. Cummings because Mr. Cummings has never ever worked in Liberia. We all here in America. We work in corporate America where the people have everything set in place. You don't even see the money. You just go to a meeting and that's it. You just serve. But Boycott has served as Director General, has served as Managing Director, has served as Minister, he has served as Deputy Minister, he has served as Vice President of the Republic of Liberia. There's nowhere in Liberia anyone can show that this man has not been tested. There is no record of this man on corruption. So I said this to Liberia, we'll go to the ballot and we'll reject Mr. Cummings.
Thank you.
And we'll reject President George Weah and we'll vote on Joseph Boycott, who has been tested in his system in Liberia. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Boycott still running? And just a correction there, Mr. Cummings has worked in Liberia. He worked with the bank, I think, or LBD. Let me bring in Sekou Sharif. Sekou, you'll be our last caller. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Brother Dennis. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Go ahead.
I also want to say hello to all of your co-panelists. Those are some of the people I have some of the greatest dear respect for. So I want to say hello to them before I get to my point.
Thank you.
But I think I once heard Barack Obama say, I think he was quoting someone. He said, "Politics is the art of the possible." Right? It's easy to sit down and come up with textbook definition of what Cummings should do in an ideal situation.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to understand Liberia is not an ideal environment. Politics is a contact sport. One of your panelists said that the environment is very muddy. And if Cummings wants to make any kind of change in Liberia, he has to make his way to the presidency. Now, there's going to be a lot of things along the way. Now, it's easy to say, oh, but why he said this the last time? Then he said, show me a politician or anyone who's vying for public office in the public space who hasn't said X, Y, and Z, and then they have to contend with the reality of the situation. Whether they're in America or Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or they're anywhere around the world, I just want you guys to hold Cummings to a realistic standard. Are the people Cummings bringing in his ranks, are those the best of people? No, but Cummings would not be the first politician to ever do that in Liberia. Is this so? The reality is, right? So here's really where I'm coming from. Some of the argument, oh, this person did this person was MPFL, this person was, but who in our body politics today, the who's who of our body politics, you can put their hand on and say they haven't done anything. So you're gonna say Cummings is gonna say, I'm a good man, maybe Cummings need to go open a church and just preach now. But if he wants to make it through the rugged hallways of our politics, our political space, and ascend to the presidency and effect the actual kind of change he has in mind, then he has to work with the people that are there.
You got to dance with the devil.
But Cummings has his own ethics. He has his own integrity. When he takes power and he's president, we will see that in his policies and procedures and how he does business. Because we understand the presidency carries a lot of power unlike other countries in Liberia. So I just want you guys to be fair to Cummings.
Thank you. And sorry, Rose, you are very late. I will just give you 30 seconds, Rose. Go ahead, 30 seconds so we can close.
Hi, guys. How you guys doing?
Good. Go ahead.
Hi, how are you? Good.
So I'm just going to say that we hope the next election be fair, and we hope Liberian people make the best decision. Volga, I don't think we want Volga right now. We don't need that. We are struggling. We need someone that is energized. We need someone that is able to take the to a better place. And I hope the Liberian people will start making good decisions, not making the bad decisions like yet them and start running the country. Please, next time, please start thinking better because we want to come back home and we hope for a better Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. Panelists, here you have it, and I have one question from text here. You say, "Hi, Mr. Ja, I follow your discussion with your panelists this evening. I would be happy if I could ask them which way is better for Liberia going forward, personality politics or ideological politics or both. I would appreciate if they could expand on these issues that have remained constant themes in Liberian political structure." This is Dr. Clarence Gono. All right. Choppy is very familiar with Dr. Gono.
Yeah, Gono, how you doing out there, man? Yeah.
Wow. Gono, how's it going?
Yeah. So our time is fast, but I can't take any more callers. I'm sorry. We are again over time. So let's respond to our caller quickly, and then we go into our Tabata session. 30 seconds each. Respond to the callers. Let me start with Choppy.
Wow. What I listen to is characterizes as perversion and distortion, which feed contradiction, irrationality in Liberia political discourse. Many of the commentators, they was almost canceling their own arguments. Some will say, let's wait for Cummings. He should be president first, then we can judge his behavior. I mean, what insanity is that? I thought someone should show us now how they will govern, and by that behavior, we should make that decision. But they allow somebody to slip to the presidency before we can checkmate them. I mean,
and then we get we are on our hand.
And the interesting dichotomy that I'm listening to tonight from the Cummings people is that they are not able to keep a straight argument. If I was in ANC, which I don't want to do, and I'm going to get in free advice, if Cummings says he's going to stop doing the same thing, don't do the same thing over and over, going to get the same results. Now the Cummings people are saying, oh no, Cummings should not say that. He should do anything just to get a presidency. I mean, then it means Cummings is a dishonest character. If that's the way he's going to govern, he's telling us now that's how he wants to govern it. That's dishonesty, and we cannot elect a dishonest character to be our president. But I'll close on this. I will close on this note. A 7%er in 2017. Somebody say, "Oh, everybody saw Cummings as a good, competent character." No, the Liberian poll saw him as a 7%er. Somebody who was unqualified, unfit, incapable of governing the state. And until now, he has not shown that he can move the ball.
Right. And President Weah made mention of that same 7% in his sermon. I just want to mention that.
You like this sermon. You like this sermon so bad.
I listen to the sermon. I'm a church guy.
I listened to it as well that day.
Yeah. Mr. Salif, quickly on our callers.
Look, Mr. Cummings, one of his mantras, right, is that evidence of future success is a history. Is the history of past performance. So I think I may be not mischaracterizing. I may not be exactly quoting, but I'm somewhere in the ballpark. So his point is that in order to know how the person will perform, you have to look at the history of performance. So some of the callers are suggesting that, look, you got to let him do what he has to do now to get to the presidency. Then you will see, right? Well, then the evidence of future success should be what we're judging, we're scrutinizing now, right? Where I agree with Sekou Sharif is that, look, when it comes to politics, politicians will say things. They will maneuver in different contexts with different constituent groups, different audiences, right? And then when they're faced with the reality, then they got to deal with that and explain themselves later on. And that's kind of that. So to be fair to the Cummings team and to Mr. Cummings, according to Sekou Sharif, and I see some meat in there. That listen, everywhere in the world, politicians will misquote themselves. Well, they'll contradict themselves sometimes. But
Mr. Salif, that got this Pennsylvania senator, it got him in trouble when he made that etchy, sketchy remark that, hey, all these things I'm saying wouldn't matter when election comes. I'm just going to raise them and start from scratch.
Exactly, that's the problem. So here, how do they call America? Flip-flopping, right? So you said this is who I am, this is the issue, here's what I would do. Then your action or your vision doesn't match your utterances. People then begin to question your character and who you are, your honesty, your thinking, right? So for me, when I look out of this and everything the callers have said, what I'm looking for is that leadership trait. Is that leadership decision-making that demonstrate to me, all right, he's operating in a context, you have to drive out of the mud in order to clean the vehicle, right? Fair enough, contact sports. But how do you get the vehicle to where it is? When you've said, listen, I'm going to fly in. Okay, and so then now you say, look, I need a Jeep to drive through this mud, and it doesn't match. It means the vision doesn't match your action, and those are some of what we're questioning, right? And I agree in totality. Taking it together now, I think I will land where Sekou Sharif was going with that. Listen, count 20 Liberians, and I've said this: we have a people problem. Those who can move the ball, who can govern, who you can appoint as ministers, that is to run the country. How many do you have to go around? 4 or 3 major presidential candidates during a campaign time. So there's a little bit of dance in there that has to happen. Right?
Thank you. let's go to Mohammed, because even with this people problem, then you are saying, okay, now tomorrow if we are putting what is his name, the law mayor, so it means that okay, we have people problems. So the law mayor and these people, they are the one with the experience. Let's use them. So
Right.
I'm not buying that.
No, I'm not buying that. we don't have a people problem.
No, my people problem. Sorry, it's my people problem. We're not like a Nigeria, right? We're a small population. I mean that's the reality. Whereas I'm not absorbing people who have checkered records or any of that. That's not my argument. My argument is we have people problem, and so sometimes these politicians they're in tight spots. So I have berated
I don't see what Daniel Chia brings to that.
Listen, Dr. Sirleaf, you've not been, or soon to be Dr. Sirleaf, you've not been contacted by anybody, have you? They watch the show.
I'm not looking for a job right now.
But
it's not about looking for a job.
It's not about looking, but have you gotten a phone call? Have you fielded a phone call? They watch the show. They know what you bring. They know what you have. So no, I don't agree. We're giving them a way out for these guys.
If I could just interrupt,
we're giving them a way out for these guys, you know, to recruit intellectual leaders who plunder our country into, you know, the worst nightmare in Liberia.
Yeah, Mr. Sherry, Mr. Sherry, I want to ask a quick question. I want to ask you a quick question. Why should a patriot citizen wait for a phone call to help his country when he sees things going on?
That's another argument.
Okay. No, this is a political thing, right?
So it is a political, but it's for your country. You're a patriot citizen. Why should you wait for a phone call? Why should a patriotic citizen wait for a phone call to politician and
offer them strategy, offer them
advice? No, it's not about politician. You can make a choice. You look at the country. You can make a choice and go there.
Choppy, show me the way. Let's say I want to help today. I want to help. Give me an example of what I can do.
No, I can't tell you what you got to do. I'm saying a patriotic citizen who wants his country to help his country can look in his country and tell where his effort are, his skill set, what he brings to the table, and make himself available.
How do you know I haven't done that? I mean, how do you know I haven't done that? I don't.
No. The argument here was you have to get a phone call. I'm asking because of that statement.
Like how? Because what
I'm asking because of that statement.
What we are
doing here now, a phone call?
What we are doing here now is a patriotic duty.
I agree.
Right. So,
but I'm saying that why should you wait for a phone call? Why don't you join somewhere?
Because it's a political campaign. Because it's a political effort.
But join. You want to see a better country. So are you not interested in a better country?
Come on,
join. Find somewhere. Join. Okay. I'm gonna make a call to you. I'm gonna make a call to you to join the CDC. I hope you take that call. I'm gonna make that call to you to join the CDC. Yeah, I'm gonna make that call. And I hope you answer the call.
Hold on now. If you do that, it will be my brother Mohammed Sharif who has sold me out and put me in
both you and Mohammed. I'm making a call. I will make the call to both you and Mohammed, and I hope you will answer the call.
How is joining the CDC a patriotic? I mean,
you're waiting for a call to join somewhere. You want a call? I'm going to make the call.
No. All right, Mr. Sharif, please conclude.
Yeah, so it's a good question. It's a very fine question. It's well in place. But look, Louis Brown did not just go join. I'm sure Louis Brown was invited into this. These guys were invited. So there are guys who were invited into what they're doing now. And there's also information that some of them are being paid handsomely. Hence, Dennis' point about cash violence. So this man has a lot of money. He has a pile of money. He tried to buy Prince Johnson, and he paid $55,000 to Prince Johnson University over there in Nimba County. And he's paying money to these big wigs. Why not call Ahmed? Why not call some people around? So I can name 200 people just sitting right here. I mean, we have Larry Topa out there. We have Weah. We have Nubali One. I can go on and on and on. So come on with, there are no good people to go around.
Mr. Sharif, on Sunday, I'm bringing Dr. Wokley S.P., an agricultural scientist, to tell us the causes of the repeated rice shortage in Liberia and possible solutions, right? Do you know of any campaign that has someone to say, okay, this is the go-to guy when it comes to healthcare.
No.
This is the go-to guy when it comes to agriculture, when it
No.
comes to the economy, policy, and all these things.
Right.
Nobody.
Nobody.
So when we say make a phone call, it's not necessarily to say come and work. Education, I've had a panel yet discussing the problem with the educational system and how we can resolve it.
Yes.
We brought the deputy education minister, and people volunteer. We want to come to Liberia and teach free of charge. And yet, that's the end of the story when they leave the platform. So we don't have a people problem.
We don't have a people problem.
We have a human capital problem.
We have
and we have a population size problem that can create,
And Agma, you know what else we have? We have a narcissistic problem. I got a borrow from my good friend Cole on that one. These guys are narcissists. You know,
all right, gentlemen. We don't want to go beyond 2 hours 30 minutes here. Let's go into our Tabata session quickly.
But Dennis, your Dr. Who's question about ideology and personality.
We're going to put that in the parking lot.
Okay.
We're going to put that in the parking lot. Let me go on with my ads here. Tomorrow, Friday, we're going to have a social issue debate. And we're going to be talking about polygamy. You know, in our society, men have multiple wives.
Oh, God. What Dennis doing again?
That's the debate tomorrow. And we're going to have, and also we're going to talk about, if time permits, we're going to talk about side chicks and side dudes. You don't want to miss it. That's a social issue debate is happening here on Focus on Liberia. The political bulldog, Anthony Sear, psychologist Steve Boley, the traditionalist, Sekou Keller, Margaret Dyson, Caroline, and Glenda Jr. He's head of GBC. They all will be here to talk about this. And on Sunday, we're going to have Dr. Wokli Pei talking about what can we do every time we talk about Pusawa. Can we do something to solve this problem? From 1979 till now, we are still fighting for rice. Also, Anthony Gay has put his hat in the ring to run for a Senate seat in his native Grand Jida County. He's going to be here with the political bulldog on Saturday at 12 noon to talk about his run. Gentlemen, I'm going to take a very short break. When we come back, prepare for your Tabata session. All right, welcome back to Focus on Liberia. This is Tough Talking Thursday. Every Thursday, we realize that there's some Tabata going on somewhere in the country, and we are not afraid to talk about it. Let me start with Mr. Mohammed Sharif for his Tabata of the week. Mr. Sharif, some Tabata going on somewhere we want to share.
Yeah, Dennis, if you endorse me because you took all my time, and I'm not one to argue about time, but some of the good people I've said on this show, this Weah government should have contacted the former finance minister for advice. This guy was a capable minister. This guy is very intelligent. He loves his country. So Amara would have given advice to the current finance minister who doesn't know what he's doing. So onto my Tabata now. It's not a lot, but I think it's so important. The new market in Douala, I watched a video where, residents in that area are going in there and, throwing feces all over the place. Mm-hmm. I mean, so much as we want to talk about government and all the time, but there's also citizen responsibility. I don't want to absorb government responsibility in that because, part of the reason probably is conjecture. But come on, you elect these people, you elect your representatives. So if you don't have place to eat yourself, I think you should go to your government officials and do something about it instead of throwing stuff like that in the marketplace.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, your Tabata of the week.
Yeah, I wanted to do a political Tabata, but I will leave you alone. So I saw a video of a letter of apology to Fufu. Okay. So where the letter, the author of the letter was reading the letter out and saying, apologizing to Fufu because of the neglect and favoring rice over fufu and cassava products, and accusing Basa people for loving Doma or loving cassava, and now see what rice has done to us. Yeah, has disappointed us. We can't even have access to rice anymore. Now everybody is resorting to cassava and fufu, and so it was a very interesting a letter in a way. So when I looked in that, it was satirical, obviously, for people to laugh, but there's more into that. To me, it was a letter of apology to our failure to cultivate our soil, our failure to grow what we eat, our failure to really use our environment, use what we have, the good weather system, the long coastline, the soil, the rainfall, and all of that to be able to grow and even export and feed ourselves, not over rely on this parboiled rice business, where every now and then every year we're running behind. Government no rice, there's no rice. So it should be an apology to ourselves, apology to the soil, apology to Mama Liberia for failing to cultivate our land and feed ourselves.
Bishop Mawia say, if you even put your finger in the soil, it germinates. Yes, to use that. Chappie, I'm coming to you there. Sam Waller say, the Tabata is the ongoing pattern of incredible unforced errors Cummings continues to make, and his latest reach back to people who were named in the TRC report is mind-blowing. That's his Tabata. Another Tabata here from Sam Waller is trying to say, Houston say, broke my Tabata of the week. People hungry for rice. Cummings can't talk about change team. Well, everybody get what important to them. This guy almost stopped short of calling this Tabata. Said Dennis is taking cheap shots at VP Buaka because he hasn't come on the show. He's just trying to get the VP's attention. That was when I asked if the VP was still running. Choppy, what's your Tabata of the week?
Well, my Tabata of the week, Mohammed is kind of tweak it up. I don't know whether it's a negative or positive. But before I just move to my Tabata of the week, I love the narrative that Ahmed make about the fufu. I watched that myself, even though it was humorous, but I thought it was pregnant. 200 years ago, Liberia produced food. That's why the area in Liberia was called the Green Coast. We exported rice to Europe. People came from Europe with ships to set store. These are all in the records, the slave records, the European records. They came to that West African region, and that's one of the reasons they took people from there to come to the Western world to learn how to grow food. So I don't understand why we can't produce. But let's go to my Tabata of the week. My Tabata has to do with Mr. Amara Conan. It's disconcerting when I hear Mr. Conan critique this government and tries to elevate what happened in 12 years, Madam Salif, suggesting that they left the country in good shape, and this government has made the country to be in a bad shape. Again, like I said, it's a metaphysical problem we have in our country that is born on double consciousness. The country was left in a bad economic situation, and for Mr. Conan, who was finance minister, to suggest that this government should stop shifting blame, should stop blaming. Look, history is important. We have to continue to emphasize history as a point of learning lessons. The government was left in a bad shape. After 12 years, the bank was broke.
We will never know because they didn't.
The bank was broke. It was announced. The country was in a deficit.
Yeah, this is something.
And Mr. Conan is so wrong.
Thank you. Elvis Morris said, my Tabata is saying my maternal cousin Daniel Chie being on the team. That guy committed massacre and killed many innocent people. How can Cummings associate with him? My Tabata is, I heard some people from the Unity Party saying, hey, look at Mr. Cummings. He's taking our guys, right? He took people from the Unity Party government, like Julian Duncan Cassell. He took people from the Unity Party, like George Wisner. And so it means the Unity Party is the best party in Liberia because our guys are making his team. I thought that was the greatest Tabata for the week, because somebody left you to go somewhere else, and he said, by virtue of you taking that person, it means
Right.
I'm better. That's complete Tabata. That is what we say, my Tabata of the week: reunion of former rebel commanders, hosted by Mr. Cummings. And we are working on Mr. Cummings coming on the show, because one, for Mr. Cummings to really explain. So far, I've not really gotten any good explanation as to why Mr. Cummings chose to go back on his words, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and all the good things that he have told us. And some may be wondering why Mr. Cummings is sometimes scrutinized. Mr. Cummings comes from us. He's come from here in Atlanta, where we in the diaspora always believe that, we are the upper class Liberians, or we are the ones that have all the knowledge. So when he's going there, he's kind of a representation of all of us. So we expect a little bit more, because if we believe that the people that we always are thinking, oh, they are not voting on issue, they are doing X, Y, Z. So we want to hold him a little more accountable than other people. But if you have the good justification why Mr. Cummings made this list, come right here at Focus on Liberia, and your view will be taken very seriously. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. I see, okay, no more Tabata. We are way out of time. Let's take a fraction of a second and just give our closing comments. Mr. Choppy Charlie, you go first.
Well, again, it's always good to be here with the folks. Interesting conversation. I love the framing of the debates from the guys, and I hope we can continue these kind of civil discourse. Liberia is experiencing a new kind of leadership, democratic president who is not using the imperial presidency style. And I think it's confusing to most of us who are used to seeing a strongman presidency. We hope we can continue in this path of democracy where people can be free to speak out, and the presidency cannot be a little bit too strong as we saw in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Butu Mano is asking, the question asked by the host whether Bwaka is still running clearly tells his show is an ANC show. That's another Tabata. Mr. Salif, your closing comments, sir.
Well, Dennis, you invited that on yourself. So you need to correct it, clean it up. Listen, I like to anchor on what Choppy
I like to ask questions. Is he running? Because I don't hear from him.
So basically, I understood that as you saying is Bobo, just as you've been accusing President Weah of being not speaking. But I like the spirit that, listen, these are several discourses. We all come here because we love Liberia. We want Liberia to do well, to make the right decisions, our people to make the right decisions, because our people who are living on the ground, particularly the ordinary poor people, are the ones who are feeling the brunt of any bad governance, any policy slippage, or any epidemic or any floods, consequences of climate change and whatnot. The impact of corruption and so on. So we come here out of a sense of patriotic duty to educate, to share the little we know with our people. Hopefully somebody picks something from it, learns something from it to make Liberia better, to make the body politic better. So that at the end of the day, we build those institutions that are inclusive, that create the enabling environment for the country to grow and thrive. So I always welcome the opportunity to be here with smart, intelligent people, including our audience, those who have been following, commenting. Thank you for participating. This is the essence of democracy. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, so so one of the things that I wanted to respond to was one of the, I believe it's a caller who said, but where was Mr. Sharif when, Samuel Doe was, doing all the killing of a certain ethnic group? You know what? My entire life has been activism. So, at the University of Liberia, right prior to the Civil War, we were part of the protest movement. I was part of the protest against, the military autocracy, the Doe autocracy. So I have never condoned, autocracies and stuff that happened during that era. But at the same time, when atrocities were committed by the NPF or brutality was committed, the war was not about removing Samuel Doe. It was about annihilating certain ethnic groups, and that's a fact. So I'm going to come to this election. This election coming 2023, I'm seeing some very good candidates on the rise. Wade has thrown her hat into the ring. Congratulations, good luck to her. My good friend Amara Kone has thrown his hat into the ring. This is a very, very fantastic candidate. He will do well for Liberia. He's a well-meaning Liberian. There are other Liberians. One of the shows that I watched, our correspondent went to West Point and met a guy. I don't even know him, but he lives in West Point. I was very impressed with the interview, and this guy is trying to run from that area as a representative. He meant, for me listening to that, I think he means very, very well. I wish him luck as well. So that's the way I think. I think beyond the horizon. I think broadly. So people like that, I think, need to represent us, not, some other people that we're looking at now. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you. This has been a fantastic moment.
Thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank our viewers for watching, and even those who are going to watch later. Don't forget, tomorrow, Friday, we have the Literary Hour with Prof. K. Moses Namwe and Jackie Sayed. Also, on Saturday, we're going to have the the History Channel. That's the Liberia History Channel with Carl Famule. This time, we are dealing with the presidents, and we're going to be talking about Daniel B. Warner. You don't want to miss it. Always keep it here at Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, we're going to end with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Vi, Gola, Loma, Mende, whoever, we are all Liberians, and let's do our best to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and may God richly bless you. Goodbye.
We are Liberians.